Some people walk through life like nothing can touch them. They speak confidently. They handle crises calmly. They carry responsibility without complaint. They're the ones others lean on, the ones who seem unbreakable. If you asked most people, they'd describe you as strong. But inside, you feel anything but. If you act strong but feel weak inside, it's not because you're fake. It's because you learned, at some point, that showing weakness wasn't safe. Maybe you were the one who had to grow up too fast. Maybe you were the emotional pillar of your family. Maybe you were praised for being mature, responsible, resilient. Maybe you were told to be strong, and what you really needed was comfort, so you became strong. Not as a choice, but as a survival strategy. Psychologically, this is called emotional armor. Your brain learned that vulnerability could lead to disappointment, abandonment, ridicule, or being ignored. So, it adapted. It taught you how to look okay, even when you weren't. How? To hold it together, even when you were falling. Apart, you didn't stop feeling, you just stopped. Showing people who act strong often don't realize how much pressure they carry. You feel like you're not allowed to break. Like if you do, everything will collapse. You're the stable one, the dependable one, the one who always figures it out. And because of that, you don't feel like you have permission to struggle, so you hide it. You smile when you're tired. You joke when you're hurting. You say I'm fine when you're anything but not. Because you're lying, but because you don't know how to ask for help without. Feeling like you're failing, you might tell yourself that others have it worse. That your problems aren't that serious. That you should be grateful. That you should handle it on your own. But minimizing your pain doesn't make it disappear. It just makes it lonely. People who act strong often grew up in environments where emotions were inconvenient, where crying was weakness, where asking for help felt like a burden, where being easy made life smoother. So, you became easy. You learned to carry things quietly. You learned to self-soothe. You learned to adapt. You learned to survive. And everyone applauded you for it, but no one asked how much it cost. Inside, you might feel fragile. Not in a dramatic way, but in a tired way. A way that feels like you're holding yourself together with invisible tape. Like one small thing could make you crumble, and that scares you. So, you double down on strength. You become more composed, more controlled, more put together. Because if you look strong enough, maybe you'll feel strong, but strength that isn't supported becomes exhaustion. You might feel like you can't relax. Like if you let your guard down, something bad will happen. Like you're responsible for everything. Like you have to be okay so others can be okay. That's not strength. That's hypervigilance. It's your nervous system staying on high alert because it doesn't trust. Rest, you might struggle with emotional intimacy. Not because you don't want closeness, but because closeness means being seen. And being seen means being vulnerable. And vulnerability feels dangerous, so you keep things light. You deflect with humor. You change the subject. You say it's nothing. Even when it's something, you might feel like no one really knows you. They know your role, your capability, your reliability, but not your fear. Not your sadness, not your confusion, not your softness, and that can feel incredibly isolating because you're surrounded but not held. People who act strong often don't realize they're allowed to be weak. Not weak as in incapable, but weak as in human, tired, unsure, needing reassurance. Needing support, you might feel ashamed of those needs, like they make you less than, like they invalidate everything you've accomplished. But needing support doesn't make you fragile. It makes you alive. You might also struggle with asking for help. You might wait until you're completely overwhelmed before you say anything, if you say anything at all. You might convince yourself you can handle it, that you always do. But handling it doesn't mean you're okay. It just means you've gotten good at carrying weight. People who act strong often internalize the belief that love must be earned through resilience, through usefulness, through being the one who doesn't cause problems, so you become low maintenance. You don't complain, you don't ask, you don't interrupt, you don't fall apart, and everyone appreciates you. But who takes care of you? You might feel guilty for wanting to be taken care of. Like that desire is childish. Like it contradicts the image you've built, so you suppress it. And that suppression shows up as emptiness, as anxiety, as burnout, as quiet. Sadness, you might not even realize how tired you are because you've never known a life where you weren't holding everything. Together, strength became your identity. And now, you don't know who you are without it. That's heavy. And no one talks about that part. People praise your strength, they admire it. They depend on it, but they don't see the cost. They don't see the nights you feel small, the moments you feel overwhelmed, the times you wish someone would notice without you having to say anything, and you probably won't tell them because you don't want to burden anyone, but that belief that your emotions are a burden is the wound. You didn't choose to be this strong. You adapted. And adaptation is intelligence. But survival is not the same as living. You don't have to keep proving your strength. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to justify your pain. You're allowed to struggle. You're allowed to ask. You're allowed to need. You're allowed to be soft. And softness does not erase your strength. It completes. Real strength is not about never breaking. It's about letting yourself be human, about allowing cracks, about letting light in, about trusting that you don't have to carry everything alone. You might fear that if you stop being strong, people will leave, that they only love you for what you provide, for how you show up, for how reliable you are, and maybe some will. But those aren't your people. The right people won't need you to perform. Resilience. They'll want to know you, not your armor, not your role, not your strength, you and that version of you. The tired one, the unsure one, the emotional one, that version deserves love too. You might not even know how to start being vulnerable. It might feel awkward, unnatural, unsafe. That's okay. You don't have to open up to everyone, but you deserve at least one place where you don't have to be strong. One place where you can exhale, where you can say, I'm not okay, where you don't have to explain or justify, where you can just be. Because constantly being strong isn't noble, it's exhausting. And exhaustion eventually turns into numbness. And numbness is not peace. If you act strong but feel weak inside, it doesn't mean you're broken, it means you've been carrying too much for too long, and strength without support turns into suffering. You're not meant to be invincible. You're meant to be real. So ask yourself, what would happen if I let myself be honest? Who would I be if I didn't have to hold everything together? What part of me has been begging to be seen? Because you don't need to be unbreakable. You just need to be held. And being held doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And that quietly, gently, truthfully is where real strength begins.